I was sitting in my office, looking back and forth between my bank account and the payroll check I had to write. I ended up writing that check out of my own personal checking account. Sitting in my office wondering, how do I continue? How do I be a top performer? How do I sell more accounts? How do I sound like an expert? And how do I keep this business going? Those were the thoughts running through my mind just a few months after opening a scratch insurance agency. And then I came to a realization. And it was, my wife set up her own insurance policy. What am I doing in the insurance industry? And I just felt completely overwhelmed, as many of us do in sales. I was being asked questions. I had no idea what the answer was. I felt like I was constantly busy, overworked, underpaid, and had no direction or idea of how I was going to create this insurance empire I was sold about. And then my wife simply looked at me and she said, "You're going to figure this out. You're going to provide for the family." And it was that day that I realized that we have a choice to make. And that choice is, do you become a victim of your circumstance or a victor of your opportunity? And those that raise to the top to become top performers, they respond to trials differently. And they become a victor of all the opportunities they have. Now, it was that moment just before Christmas that I started my study of top performance. I sought out mentors in the industry. I started researching. I started reading a book every single week, trying to figure out what made the difference between a top performer and those that stayed in their state. And I discovered the exact opposite. And throughout all that research, I realized that the main impediment keeping individuals from achieving their top performance within their life is complacency. Now, complacency is one of the biggest hidden costs to any business. Studies show that you spend 2 hours of every day in a complacent state. What does this translate when it comes to business? Let's say on average, we'll just take your workers. Average worker in your business is $18 an hour. That translates to over $9,000 every single year per employee. Complacency is one of the biggest hidden costs to any business. How does that look for sales? You take that same calculation and you say, how much do I earn per sale? How long does it take me to get an account? And what does that translate to? In the insurance industry, which is my background, the average time to obtain a new account is 4 hours. From point meeting the client to signing up the policy, 4 hours time period for the agent. That's 130 accounts a year. Or with an average commission of 10%, $60,000 just in our natural state. So I realized this was a big issue. And as I studied this concept further, I realized that we fall in to 3 complacency models. These are 3 natural ways that we as business owners or sales become complacent. And those are busy, natural, and self-made. and we'll talk about each of those. But as I don't have a full day workshop, I asked Rodney if I could, but he said no. We can't go too in depth, but this is an overview of everything we teach when it comes to creating healthy sales cultures. These are the 4 pillars, and today I have the opportunity to speak to that first one, which is that top performance framework. So we're going to kind of dive deep today on what is the framework that creates top performance within our lives, our business, and our sales culture. And all of these other items we can connect after the fact if you'd like to learn more about those. But when it comes to top performance comes from an endogrammatic word, topa, and parfornir. Now, those translations, that is what's called etymology. That's my nerdy side. If you see behind me, I love all things nerd. And etymology is the study of words and their origin to find greater meaning. And topa is the endogrammatic word for summit. And parfornir is the word for to do. So in its literal translation, back when it was first used, it meant to summit a mountain. What a beautiful illustration of a top performer. One who summits a mountain. One that does the hard work necessary to get to the top. Now, being in Utah, my wife and I have the beautiful opportunity to live in a stunning state. Now, we have hiking trails. I live in northern Utah. We're right next to the mountain. My house is literally on the mountain hill. We are 2 minutes from a 20 trails. So we love hiking. We love the outdoors. We love different places. And the beautiful thing about Utah is we're actually famous as the state with the most children. And because of that, we can't afford anything else. So the National Park Services said that we have to keep up with the fertility rate. So they gave us 5 national parks. Now, if you've ever been to Utah, we have wonderful national parks. Down in southern Utah, there are 5, and they are stunningly beautiful, just red rock formations, and it creates incredible contrast. Now, my wife and I, we try to get down to southern Utah at least once a year. Because for us, we just get to disappear from the world. And when I say disappear from the world, I literally mean I can disappear so nobody can find me. Now, I think my complexion and my red hair really sell that picture the most. That's just me. Down in southern Utah, there's a beautiful place, and it's called Angel's Landing. Now, Angel's Landing is rated as one of the most difficult and dangerous hikes in the world. And the reason being is you traverse this canyon, and you go through Walter's Wiggles, and you do 21 switchbacks, 1,700 feet to the top of this canyon wall. Now, Angel's Landing is an outcrop, a narrow outcrop that comes and peaks and gives you an overlook of Zion's Canyon. Now, as you get up to the top of this ridge, your legs are burning. You just scaled 1,700 feet in a quarter mile as you're going straight up this mountain face. And the last half mile is the most difficult part, where you traverse a narrow stretch of land with 1,000-foot free falls on either side. Jeff is like, heck no. And you have this chain bolted to the rock the entire way. Now, you look there, and it's just open on either side. Now, as one who doesn't like heights, you can imagine the psychological difficulties of this hike. But as you get there, you experience something incredible, which is one of the greatest views you possibly can have. It's an overlook of the canyon with a river down the middle. And depending on when you go, the sun can create a stunning view of that area. Now, this is the epitome of top performance. When it comes to top performance, we follow 4 key principles that are in place when you're in a peak state. And the first is optimism. Optimism is the Latin word for best. It doesn't mean happy, it doesn't mean positive. It simply means best. Are we doing the best things for our clients? Are we becoming the best version of ourselves? Are we having the correct mindset? Are we doing what's best for those around us? Now, when it comes to running a business and being in sales, we get stuck in this sense of complacency where we don't want to progress and we feel like everything that we're doing is difficult. Now, what I see most business owners face is a day like this. Phone call, email, text message, client comes in, appointment. Oh my goodness, there's workflows. Oh my goodness, there's tasks I need to do. And you're just constantly busy. When you're constantly busy, you run on what's called chaos. Now, if you're a parent like me, I have 3 kids, we know what chaos feels like. And as business owners, that chaos, it makes us feel productive. But that busyness keeps us from progressing. And we fall into this first complacency model, which looks like this in a visual representation. You're going all throughout the day, you're having wins, you're having losses, you're having successes, you're having failures. But at the end of the day, there is no progression in the business. No time was devoted to moving the needle, to doing the most important things. You're essentially treading water. Now, the way we overcome this is we implement the best systems. When we have consistent systems, we get consistent results. Systems is the second pillar of top performance. Now, what systems do within our business is it allows for order, allows for consistency. It allows us to create experiences for our customers that create peak moments. Now, this leads us, even though this pulls us out of that first model of complacency, it puts us into a natural state. Now, our natural tendency is you have an innate negativity bias. You are just pessimistic by nature. Doesn't matter who you are, unless you're Tony Robbins, you're pessimistic. Now, when it comes to that psychological state that we're in, when we experience setbacks and we experience these different trials and things don't work, negative experiences, they trigger our amygdala in our brain. It's a tiny little almond-shaped portion. And that is used to regulate our emotions and signify emotional intensity. And when a negative experience happens, it is 4 times more powerful than one positive. And our brain does that to keep us safe. How many of you had this experience where you get home and your spouse asks you, "Hey, how'd your day go?" And the first thing that comes to your mind is all of the negative things that happened about that day. Your brain does so because it wants to keep you safe. Now, what does that do when it comes to sales? When things don't work, our brain takes those, it registers them, it infuses those. And so then the next time that experience happens, the brain turns those back on and it induces fear. Next time you have to make that phone call, your brain says, "Oh, don't make that phone call. Somebody yelled at you last time. You need to bring up a product. Oh, don't bring up that product. That client hated it last time. Oh, I don't want to answer that phone call. That client was angry at me last time." And your body induces poor decision making. It induces reluctance. It induces procrastination and overall a sense of complacency. And this natural state is what creates that 2 hours per day that we sit in this natural state. Now, how do we overcome this? This is the second model of natural complacency. The way we do so is we implement our third pillar of top performance. When things don't work, the optimist never views a failure. I was once asked a question, when is a man successful? I said, they're successful when they decide to see success. There's no such thing as failures. There's only opportunities to learn and grow. And so as we make this switch, what we do is we increase our power. Now, here comes my nerdiness again. Power is applied knowledge. When you look at the root word of power, it means action. Now, how many of you could complete this phrase? Knowledge is, I saw a lot of you mouth it. Knowledge is power, okay? This was attributed to Francis Bacon back in the 1500s. But I'll tell you this, it is not accurate today. Let me give you an example. If knowledge was power, since AI has access to the most knowledge, wouldn't it be the most powerful thing in the world? Since we know it's not, there's a disconnect. When you look at the word wisdom, wisdom in its root word is application. It is the correct use and application of knowledge. When we gain knowledge, we increase our power, our potential power. But when we apply it, it becomes exercised power. The top performer, they make a switch to increasing their power and applying it back into the systems. So whenever there's a failure, you change direction and you only view success. And that drives our focus. Now, focus is the exact opposite of fear. There is no fear when the focus is clear. Fear and focus cannot exist at the same time. And when we do so, we experience top performance. We've all experienced these peak states. We've all experienced these wonderful days. And the reason being is we had the correct mindset. We were following a system. We were exercising in our knowledge that we had, and we had focus on the desired outcome. And that creates these peak moments and peak days. Now, when we experience top performance, we then experience the third model of complacency. Now, I experienced this while I was sitting on a mountain. Yes, I was hunting, so if that offends any of you, I don't need to hear about it afterwards. But the Lord can teach you a lot of things while you're sitting on a mountain. And we were stalking this deer for 2 days. We knew exactly where it bedded down. We knew exactly where it grazed. And we were in the perfect spot. It was going to come up this ridge and be an 80-yard shot with a muzzleloader. Now, I was sitting there in this perfect position. I heard a voice, and it said, "Move now and go after the deer." And I said, "No, I'm good. I'm in the perfect spot." And I heard it a second time. It said, "Move down, go after the deer. You're going to lose it." And I said, I mean, if I move over there, I could get the shot on top of the ridge. It'd be like a 140-yard shot. I could probably hit it. But it's going to come over. It's been doing that for the last 3 days. I'm good. And then a third time, "Move now. We're going to lose the deer." And you know what I did? I sat there. I'm good. I'm in the perfect spot. And not 2 minutes later, my friend's dad, who was spotting the deer on the other ridge, letting us know what it was doing, said, "It just darted up the rock face the opposite direction." Some hunters had came in from the bottom of the canyon. The wind blew up the hill, and they caught the other hunter's scent. And we lost the deer. And I realized that when we stop our progression, we fall into what's called the self-made complacent. And it's the experience we get when we feel like we've made it. We feel like we're good and we don't need to progress any further. You can either optimistically perform every single day or you pessimistically stay in complacency. Now, what makes the difference? I want to finish coming back to a story. Now, as I finish this story, I want you to go to this site here. This is going to be our breakout. I want you guys to assess your sales culture, and this compares the aspects of your sales culture to our 4 pillars of top performance. And so as we break out, we're going to discuss this together. It takes about 5 to 6 minutes to complete this, and we'll do that in groups. So just make sure you have that pulled up. And then we'll discuss essentially how our sales culture and how we're performing based off of these 4 pillars. Now, coming back to the story, as my wife and I was at Angel's Landing, as we were sitting there on top of the mountain, we were experiencing one of the best views possible. And we got there because we wanted to experience the best. We followed the system in place. We followed that trail. Our knowledge and our power from previous hikes allowed us to get there. And our focus of our destination helped me overcome that fear of falling. But as we were sitting there at the top, we were so excited. We were ecstatic. We experienced literally one of the best views. And we started back down the mountain. Now we had a full day of hiking. We were going to go to the Narrows later that evening. We were excited. We were chatting about, the Narrows and how much fun that was going to be. We were going, against the slick rock. The chain was to the right as we're coming down the face. And I fell. That chain held me up. When we become complacent in our lives, when we don't have direct focus, we fall. Getting to the top of that mountain was only half of the journey. When we summit a mountain, it means we go there and we come back. Top performance doesn't mean we sit there, park our lawn chairs, and stay at the top of the mountain for the rest of our life. Top performance is an ongoing basis. Your focus is getting there and getting back down. And when you get back to your base camp's never the same, because it has now been elevated with the joy you received on your journey, the experiences you received, the knowledge you gained. And you can then step out on the trail the next day as a better person because your base camp is elevated. To complete the cycle of a top performer, the top performer is one who gets on the trail every single day. They wake up and they say, which mountain do I need to summit today? And how do I find joy in that journey? Top performance is about daily education. It's about coming to groups like this, taking this knowledge, applying into our lives, our business, increasing our power, redefining our systems, navigating our daily focus, realizing the summits we have to climb every day. And we create this cycle of our best life. That is the beauty of a top performer. I need you to optimistically perform each day. Go get on the trail. Thanks, everybody.
We all realize we're diamonds in the rough.
I did terrible.
That are customer focused. So Tyler, help us out. I think one of us, we said, hey, we all have diamonds in our shape.
Yep.
And all of us were customer centric towards on our diamond, right? But what's the rest of that diamond mean?
Yeah. So that's the care model. So when you look at your sales culture, you care for 4 different aspects. You care for the customer, you care for your own individual attributes. That's your own leadership. That's the culture you hold within yourself. Then you have your reputation, and that's the products and the services and the experience the customers receive within that company. And that's your reputation. And then the employees. Those are your team members and the culture that they feel. And so you have customers, attributes, reputation, and employees. And that is what brings up that sales culture. So nerdiness, again, the Latin word for culture is the Latin word for care.
So the further out those points extend, the more you are centric towards those attributes.
Correct. Yep. So as you get closer to those edges of top performance, that means that your culture is operating within those 4 pillars. And the narrow it in, you're missing some of those 4 pillars, whether it's the focus, the systems, the optimism, or the power within each of those categories.
Anybody else observe anything or anything about the questions? Or questions for Tyler in general?
So basically, if you scroll down, you find your rating.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. If you scroll down on that diamond, it has kind of a breakdown of each of those 4 areas as well and the percentages.
Am I missing something? Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. I got to scroll. I got to physically scroll.
There you go, Rodney. You got it.
I got it now. Okay. Good deal. Any other questions? Comments, concerns? Joanne, are we good for next week?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we go into Joanne being next week, right? Guys, first of all, give it up for Tyler, right? I think definitely powerful impact, right? Top performance is a tough thing to accomplish. And I think with focus, right, on the right things, it allows you to achieve great performance overall. And don't ever let the fear of heights or anything else, right, allow you to fall, right? Allow you to fall. Tyler, any closing remarks from you, sir?
Go ahead and get on the trail. That's the beauty of a top performer. Is every day you're here at this meeting, you're being a top performer. Right now, you're increasing your knowledge, you're taking it back in your businesses. As you continue that process, find joy in what you're doing every day.
Awesome. And Tyler, did you put your contact information in the chat, please, if you haven't
I
already?
can, yep.
Yeah. So highly encourage for you guys to reach out to Tyler, have a one-on-one with him, right? Learn more about this process and the framework of top performance, right? And how you can apply it to the things that you are working towards, whether it be in your businesses or those that are in transition in any way, right? And so we're going to close out a little bit early today, guys, mainly because I'm at this job fair and I think my computer's about to die and stuff, but definitely, I really appreciate Tyler jumping on here today with us and joining us. Tyler, hopefully we can have some more conversations in the future. I'm going to show this to Tim. He's standing here next to me, my RVP here in Cincinnati, and maybe we'll figure out a way to get you in and train our team here in Cincinnati too. But Appreciate you, brother, for jumping on with us.
You
The rest
bet.
of you guys go out there, be a top performer this week, stay on the trail right, and make it a great week, everybody. I love you guys.